I just went through a hell of an experience at my local shopping centre regarding Fern, my service dog. Now, I don't want to launch into this without giving some kind of context, but it is very hard to get a service dog accredited here in Australia. The training costs upwards of $35,000. You have to meet certain eligibility criteria. You have to be the right fit for a service dog. Not everyone can handle one. There's very specific criteria for it for a reason. And if you manage to cross all of those hoops, if you get through all of that stuff, there is a probation period and then there's ongoing training and yearly assessments. It's a lot. So when I say this is important, I do not say this lightly. I was at my local supermarket. I'd done all of my shopping. I had finished. I was at the checkout. I normally get Fern to get under the counter in front of me. So the checkout person is there. There's the conveyor belt where all the items get done, and then there's underneath. And normally here in Australia, there's a space here, and I get Fern to go underneath there, and I either get her into a drop or I just have her sitting there. The reason I do this is so she's tucked out of the way so that no trolleys accidentally run over her tail, and she's still close enough to be able to do her job. And on top of all of that, it makes sure that no one can get to her. So often you'll have young kids who are really enthusiastic about dogs, wanting to get close and whatever, but it just prevents that from happening. Well, today, out of nowhere, Fern got startled because there was another dog in the shopping centre behind us. They come out of an aisle directly in line with where our service area was, where I was checking out my groceries. This German Shepherd with its handler lunged forward and started barking its head off. The lady had it on a harness, pulled the dog away, and basically left the supermarket straight away. Now, the problem was that obviously that's the equivalent of me walking up to someone and saying, hey, you want to fight? You want to go? That's what that other dog was doing to Fern. Fern, luckily for me, basically didn't react. She got a bit defensive posture, and I called her over and she hesitantly came over to me. I got her back into a drop. I made sure she was shielded, so I was shielding her so she had a level of protection. And eventually she calmed down after about 2 minutes or so. Once I got her outside of the supermarket especially, she shook it off. So if you see a dog shake after a stressful event, that's them blowing off that steam. Now, I wasn't sure if that other dog was a service dog, right? Because it was in a supermarket. And in Australia, you're not allowed to bring pet animals into any food service area, period. You're not allowed to do it. So my thought was perhaps it was a service dog, and I just didn't see the vest because it all happened very quickly basically at my feet. But I watched that lady leave the supermarket and the dog didn't have a service vest on. Once again, here in Australia, part of the accreditation process is getting a vest. This is Fern's service dog vest. You can't get these any other way than going through an organisation. Now, there's a couple of things that give it away that it's a legitimate vest. It has a brand on the side that you could Google. You can literally look this up and see that it's an accredited service dog vest. A lot of people who fake service dogs will go to eBay and buy a vest that just has service dog put on the side. No service dog organisation is going to give you a vest like that, period, in Australia. It will always have their logo on it. It will have things like stop, don't pat on it. It'll have some of the organisations that they work with. And generally speaking, it'll look a lot more official than just a harness that's got service dog written on it. Now, legally in Australia, they have to have that vest on when they go out into public. But if they don't have a vest on, it still may be a service dog. You don't know. The other thing that you can do is ask for their primary handler card. So you have a license, a literal license with photo ID on it, that proves that the dog is accredited as a service dog. It is extraordinarily unlikely that you will have a dog that is not vested. I cannot even begin to describe to you the process that you go through and everything that you learn. Your dog will be vested. The ID is more or less a confirmation. So in other words, say the vest had been stolen and someone else is using it on their dog, you could request to see the ID. Now, I bring all this up for one simple reason. I've talked at nauseum about the responsibilities that the public can do when it comes to service dogs, how to interact with them and what to do if you see a service dog out and working. But what I haven't talked about is what businesses should be doing for the exact reason that happened tonight. The biggest problem is, if that keeps happening to Fern, it's happened twice now with two completely untrained dogs lunging and barking at her, is that she will start getting defensive when she sees dogs in those spaces. And that means that my legitimate service dog has been undermined by people's ignorance and irresponsibility. You may want a service dog. If that's the case, put in the work and get one accredited. It costs a lot of money for a reason. The reason is it weeds out the people that just want to take their pets out into shopping centers, like basically what happened today. You can tell, especially because as a handler, you go through a level of training and you work with your dog every single day. You get a very good education on dog body language. That dog was not suited to that environment. Service dogs go through a lot of training so that they can sit within dynamic, complex, and stressful environments and not get overwhelmed and still be able to perform their tasks. And it's for that reason that not every dog is suitable to becoming a service dog. It takes a particular mentality, and that's basically bred in. You cannot just force that to happen. So businesses honestly need to start asking for primary handler IDs. That's my 2 cents on this take. Sure, there's an outside possibility that someone who has a dog, who's handling a dog, doesn't have the vest with them. I've forgotten my vests several times. I've always turned around and gone home and got them. That's how much the training and the vest is instilled in us. Like, the vest is everything, right? But let's just say for the hell of it, they forgot the vest. Well, then it's up to the businesses to say, can I see your primary handler card? Because it's a legal responsibility of the handler, that would be me, to produce that card and say, yes, you can, here is their ID, here is their license to be able to come into this space. To fail to do that means that you're putting legitimate service dogs and their handlers at risk. It would be cost prohibitive, first and foremost, and almost impossible to replace Fern and what she does for me. I've spent 2 years training that dog. I've spent $35,000 to $40,000 getting to that stage over those 2 years. And to replace that would mean that I would have to go right back to the beginning and try again, or do some hefty rehabilitation with Fern herself. All of which could be avoided if people respected the fact that they're not to take their pets into those public spaces so they don't interfere with working animals. It's not that Fern can't handle that stress. She handled it perfectly. But if it happens again and again and again, or that dog walked around the corner and we didn't know it was coming, and because it lunged and tried to do an attack, it got defensive and was actually within striking range, there's a lot more trouble caused by that than just leaving your dog outside or at home in the car. I have ranted enough about that. Hopefully that gives you guys some idea of the responsibilities that both businesses and the public can have and do to avoid situations like this, not just for me, but for everyone who's worked incredibly hard to get that level of having a service dog and becoming a handler of one. But for now, I'm gonna go eat dinner. Bye.